As Dorothy once said in The Wizard of Oz, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Well, that rings true for Motoring TV this week as we find ourselves a long way from home in the Kingdom of Bahrain in the Arabian Gulf. Now, the last time I checked, we had 23 different versions of the Porsche 911. Well, the Panamera has been around since 2010, and now we have 18 different flavors. Now, does that make the decision-making for those with enough cash more difficult? Or maybe, just maybe, this new GTS might make it simpler. Why do I say that? Well, many believe that the GTS could be the best Panamera in the showroom.
We are happy to launch now the two new Panamera GTS models. GTS is positioned above the 4S and below the Turbo, just in the middle.
Well, the GTS is always, for me, sat in the sweet spot because you get more horsepower than the base S model. Not quite as much as the Turbo, but you get most of the gimmickry off the Turbo in the GTS, so it handles like the dickens. The cars here have got carbon ceramic brakes on them, so you're never going to run into fade. And I think as for the rest of it, they've done a pretty good job of making it what it's supposed to be, and that is a fast, luxurious sedan.
We have some characteristic product features, like the V8 4-liter twin-turbo engine with 460 horsepower, and also in the exterior as well in the interior you can see different features that are typical for the GTS. For example, black accents like the 20-inch Panamera design wheels, or the black window strips, or the black side skirts of the Sport Design package. So we have typically the Panamera GTS as a sports sedan, but also, and for the first time, we offer the Panamera GTS Sport Turismo. So a Sport Turismo that features, or that has all the GTS typical features, is available now.
We're at the Bahrain International Raceway in Bahrain, and so this track has a lot of history with a lot of great races that have been disputed here.
Initially, when they said they were going to come to an F1 track, and one of the faster F1 tracks on the circuit as it is, I thought, you know what, Porsche's likely to bite off more than they can chew, but the thing is, not true at all. This thing's perfectly at home on the track, and yet on the way to the track, on the highway, it pampers the riders. Well, the twin-turbo V8 is a sweetheart of an engine. I mean, it'll get the riders to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.1 seconds. Now, that's good by any standard. However, if you mash the gas pedal, you better be holding on with both hands, because it'll get from 80 to 120 in 2.9 seconds. Now, you're talking about a family sedan. And in fact, on some of them, it's almost a wagon. Now, you don't say wagon to Porsche because they'll bite your head off, but it is like a wagon.
You know, I always tell people that when you're going to test drive a car, make sure you spend some time in that car at night. Car makers spend a ton of money on interior lighting, and you may or may not like it. Well, as you can see, we're driving the Panamera GTS at night at the Formula One track here in Bahrain. And as someone said, well, you could spend a lot of windshield time behind the wheel of this Porsche, night or day. It's that good.
For those that don't want to buy a Cayenne, then looking at the Panamera GTS Sport Turismo is a very viable option, because you do get lots of space. It's got all of the gimmicks that you want, but when you take it to the racetrack, it's not showing itself up.
So what's our biggest problem on highways in North America? Distracted driving. And car makers keep coming up with different ways to stay connected, but they're hands-free. Yet so many people insist on using their phone while driving, especially texting. Well, think twice before you do that here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. You get caught texting, how about 6 months in jail? So I don't think distracted driving is an issue. And as far as speeding goes, there are photo radar cameras everywhere, not to mention the police. I'll bet you on a highway here, we must have counted a cop car every kilometer. Unbelievable. So you really have to watch your speed, especially if you're driving a Porsche Panamera GTS, if you know what I mean.
The sedan would likely be the more popular, but we do see an uptake in the Sport Turismo version, which was not available in the previous generation Panamera. So it'll be interesting to see how it does this generation.
And for me personally, I even prefer the design of the Sport Turismo. And it's, in my eyes, even more differentiating to the other cars around than the sports sedan.
It's like having your sports car and also being able to have 4 doors and accommodate more people. Porsche has always had the reputation of having sporty cars, and the GTS version really just pushes that one step further.
Now, you've heard me whine before about how I'm getting weary of the onslaught of CUVs in North America and the demise of the sedan market. So yeah, it's been a real treat being here in the Kingdom of Bahrain driving these Porsche sports sedans. Now, you might be surprised at my favorite GTS model. It's the Sport Turismo, which is a nice way of saying a wagon. Love the styling, seats 5, lots of cargo space with the back seats down, very much like many CUVs. And you know, I'd love to see more wagons in North America as we do in Europe. Now, this wagon comes at a price, 153,000 Canadian dollars. Well, as my dad once said, life isn't always fair, son. You got that right.